Hello and welcome to Module 4. In Module 4, we're going to talk about embellishing the beats that you learned in Module 3. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to introduce this really cool concept called the offbeat snare drum. Now, it's important to understand what we mean by the term offbeat because it's a negative connotation. It makes you think that you're doing something wrong or you're somehow playing out of time. But it doesn't mean that at all. Think about music that's on the beat. When we talk about beat 1, 2, 3, 4, those are notes that are on the beat. So anything in between, ands, e's, as, by definition, those are offbeat notes. And these beats are used in so many different genres of music. They're very challenging, they're very cool, and that's going to be the subject of these 10 videos in Module 4. So, just to recap, we're building upon everything we've done in Module 3. So, here's a word of warning here, or a word of advice. If you're not totally comfortable with the 10 videos that make up Module 3, now's a good time to go back, just do those again and make sure you're really happy before moving on. And the reason is this: we are literally taking every beat that you played in Module 3 and we're adding, in most cases, just one extra snare beat, sometimes 2 extra snare beats. So the happier you are with those exercises, the easier, conceptually, these next videos are going to seem. And remember, we're all about building from the foundation. These are messages that I've given you from day one. Module 1 went into Module 2. Module 2 went into Module 3. And now we're building on Module 3 into Module 4. And that way, we're setting you up for success. So it's really not a good idea to jump from video to video if you're not really ready to move on. So just, a little check-in with yourself and make sure you're happy to move on before you try these exercises. So let's take a look at number 1. I'm not going to say this at the beginning of every beat, but you have seen this beat before. It was in Module 3. It was in video 1. It was number 1. And the only thing that we've added here, as you can see, is the E on the snare drum on beat 1. So we're playing the E of the 1 on the snare drum, and that represents our offbeat. So as usual, I'm going to play 2 bars of time very slowly, and I'm going to count out loud for you, and then we'll move over to our metronome example. So number 1, very slowly. 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 and 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 and. Now, slight change from everything we've done so far. I'm going to run the metronome at 70 beats per minute as usual, but this time I'm not going to count out loud as I'm playing along. And the reason for that is you're now on Module 4. I think it's probably more useful for you to hear the beat without me counting over the top of it. So here we go, 70 beats per minute, number 1, 2, 3, 4. So that might seem odd to not hear me counting over the top. But again, I think you're at that point now where you don't need that. If anything, I encourage you to print off the PDFs and read the music in your own time, play nice and slowly. I don't think I would necessarily expect you to be playing along in real time with what I'm doing right now. I think that's difficult. But I think just looking at the music in your own time and then playing slowly, doing all the good habits that you've built up to this point will help you. Number 2. As you can see, we've added the E of the 3. The E of the 3 is our offbeat. So if I play 2 bars of time very slowly for you, 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. So again, as a reminder, that is the beat that you saw in Module 3, Lesson 1. Number 2, we've just added the E of the 3. That's the only difference. Here comes our metronome, 70 beats per minute. 2, 3, 4. So again, I'm not counting out loud for you. It is a bit of a change, but I will say this. When I'm playing with a metronome and I'm playing at that kind of tempo, 70 beats per minute, I am counting in my head for sure. Because remember, the messages from day one is that the counting helps you lock in with the metronome. So hopefully what you're going to hear is me playing somewhat close to, as close as I can to the metronome. We're not looking for perfection here, okay? We're not machines. There's going to be a period where you might just push the beat a little bit or drag the beat a little bit or just come off the metronome just a touch. In fact, you'll hear me do that in these videos because we're, as I say, we're not machines, we're human, but certainly counting in your head if you're not counting out loud is going to help you there. Moving on to number 3. You can see now we've added the ah, our offbeat snare drum, to the ah of the 2. So again, let's play 2 bars of time, nice and slowly. 1 and 2 and a 3, E and 4 and 1 and 2 and a 3, E and 4 and. Metronome 70 beats per minute. 2, 3, 4. Number 4, we are adding the ah of the 4 as our offbeat snare, so it's right at the end of the bar. This gives us a really good transition from the end of the bar to the beginning of the next bar because we have that 8th note rest on beat 1. You've seen this before, always makes it a little bit more challenging to start a beat just on the hi-hat. Remember, 9 times out of 10 when we start a drum beat, we're playing the bass drum on beat 1, but that's not the case here. It's not on the 1, it's on the and of the 1. So technically, going back to our introduction, you could say that that and of the 1 technically is an offbeat bass drum. So it's not a negative thing, it's just not on the beat, it's not on the 1. So nice and slowly, here's 2 bars of time, number 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, E and a. And here's our metronome. 2, 3, 4. So that one will certainly challenge you. I mean, I think all of these are quite challenging to start with, but that one, I can feel the complexity rising just a little bit as I work on that myself. Last example, number 5, we're adding our offbeat snare on the ah of the 2. So if I play our 2-bar example nice and slowly, it will sound like this. 1 E and 2 and a 3 and 4 E and 1 E and 2 and a 3 and 4 E and. And that's tricky, and the reason that's tricky is because as you experienced in Module 3, having a 16th note rest on 1 is really quite tricky. You have to bring the bass drum very sharp on the E. 1 E and 2. 1 E and 2. All of that's covered in Module 3 if you need to revisit that. Let's go in with our metronome, 4 bars of time. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so those are your first 5 examples. As always, it's a good idea to start those nice and slowly, no metronome at all, count out loud. By now you have these really good practice habits instilled into you. I'm going to be giving you less instruction at the end of the videos about what I think you should be practicing at, because again, if you've gone through those first 3 modules, you're at a point now where you've figured out the most important thing of all, which is what works for you. That's the most important thing. Now, before we leave this particular video, let's go back to number 1. If you heard this a little faster, so reminder, number 1, 1 E and, 2 E and, 3 and, 4 and. If we played that a little faster, you get a good idea of where you can take this as you become more confident and you build up your speed over time. So as usual, just like modules 2 and 3 and the majority of module 1, we have 10 additional audio files for you to work on. As always, they are quite a bit harder than the 5 examples we've seen in the video, so be sure to check those out. Remember, I'm here. Please reach out if you need any help. support@drumambition.com. Thanks for watching.